So I want us to talk about skills. Who here, show of hands, who here feels like as a result of these 3 weeks, they have skills they didn't have before? Yeah, maybe.
I think it's more that you're aware of them.
That was my next question.
It's like I had them before, but now I'm more aware of them.
So hold that thought. Who feels like they have one that they just did objectively not have before? Okay, go ahead.
I didn't know how to be strategic about finding a job, so now I know how to. I guess that's a skill or a new thing I learned.
Do we have any others? There's someone on this side. Yeah.
I didn't know how to write a real resume as compared to a CV. So I think I can do that now.
Yeah, it's so weird the way that word or that form translates outside. All right, so let's explore the other side. Let's say you have to pick new skills or skills you didn't realize you had. So we had a couple of new skills, folks. But it sounds like the room is more skills you didn't realize you had, right? So go ahead. Sorry.
Chewing.
I waited for the moment when your mouth was full.
Great, thank you. Improvising, I guess. Well, I wouldn't necessarily pin it down to one specific one, but we talked so much about transferable skills, and I think lots of the stuff we talked about was kind of latently there in a way that I knew that I could do these things, but being able to really translate it like in concrete terms. How do you translate critical thinking? How do you translate analytical thinking into a potential job that you see or into an industry that you're interested in? I think that that was something that I got to practice a lot during these 3 weeks.
Who heard their own experience in what was just said? That, okay, you realize you had this suite of skills you didn't have before. What do you think? What are yours that came out?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of the things that Anna already mentioned, but I mean, as far as all these jobs that require like lots of functional interpersonal skills or networking, or whatever, I think I'm actually much better at that than I thought that I was. And I think, you know, I can definitely see my academic research playing into that. I do a lot of interviewing and stuff, so it might be a culmination of that experience I've had recently and this workshop, just realizing that, yeah, I can engage with all those different kinds of people that I would need to maybe in order to gain entry into new spaces that would lead to jobs.
Gain entry is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Did you have one?
Yeah, I think I felt like in grad school I wasn't developing skills, and that was frustrating. I wasn't developing any skills, really. You know, like tactile kind of like working skills. But I think, again, off of what Anne was saying, the learning to translate how, you know, teaching a class could be project management or just coordination of, you know, lots of different things, or how grading could be something related to like other work outside of academia. So that's been helpful in thinking strategically about possibly applying for other jobs and thinking about yourself in a different way.
Yeah. So what I aim to do over the course of our time together is for us to produce a kind of synthesis of all of these skills that have been acquired, discovered. And my focus is going to be on the critical thinking and creativity part of it, because that's where I live. But you know, feel free to, if there's something that I'm not picking up or suggesting, just feel that is important to you, feel free to just throw it in. The goal is going to be for us to complete, for everyone here to complete, 4 statements. And I have the beginnings of them here. So I know there are too many of these, but if you could pass them around. There you go. Pretty simple sentences. So I will read them out loud for you as we pass. The first sentence is, I never knew that I, ... probably followed by could, can, know how to. The second is, I never knew that we could, can, should, are able to.
We being this cohort of people?
Yeah, so that's what I was about to get into, is who is the we. They can land anywhere over there, really. So who is the we? I'm going to say actually it can be anyone you want. So it can literally be these 28, 29, 30 people. It can be people from my discipline, if you want. It can be doctoral students. It can be folks who work on the humanities, whether they're not doctoral students. But a collective identity. So it turns out, we can do this thing we didn't know. The flip side are two versions of the same, again. It's now that I know this, we should, we folks in the humanities, we folks at my university, whatever we you want, we should go do this. And then the last one, your real take home, is now that I know this, I should. So just for you personally. So that's going to be our goal, is to answer those 4 questions for everybody. Here is, so I have a framework, a system for us to do this. It is based in the same stuff we used the first day. You don't have to know or remember any of it. It's just the framework that I'm using to understand it. So I'm going to provide you that framework. So on each of these sheets, I've got, go that way, the definitions of the attributes of social problems, but actually the flip side is more important. The definitions are just there for your reference. The flip side are, so we have observed in working with groups of people solving problems that everyone is a natural at one of these 7 things. One of these sets of skills for problem solving. And my wager is that over your time together, you've either figured out that one of these is your thing, or you figured it out in a more formal way. You say, oh, look, humanities people are actually really good at this. I hadn't thought about that before. So what I'd like you to do, actually there is one thing I want to know if you remember from the first day. Do you remember your agency at the end? The little group that you were in? Okay, just put a little dot by whichever one of those corresponds to what you did. And if you don't remember, it's totally fine. I just want it as a data point that you can use. So I am going, hey.
Can you repeat that because you were talking and things were.
Sure, oh, absolutely. So on the flip side, the one that looks like a resume, if you find the group that you were in at the end of the first day, so actors, limits, norms, whatever it was, just put a little dot by it to remind yourself. But if you don't remember, it's totally fine. It's just for your own help. So I'm going to draw a big chart. And here's what I'd like you to do while I waste classroom time drawing the chart. Talk to the person, go ahead and look at these skills on the back of the sheet. And talk to the person to your left or to your right about which one of those kind of feels like you. Just not in any formal sense, just one feels like you. So you do that, I'm going to draw a chart. Okay. This is just warm up. So now it's time for compliments. Compliment time. Happy talk time. So here is the configuration. Sorry, I do that naturally. Here's the chart. We have 5 Jeopardy categories on the top. So 1 is just the opening exercise, that very first thing we did. Second is week 1. and you can pick anything from week 1, but I'm thinking in particular of the IDEO stuff. Week 2, again, anything from week 2, but 1871 and their sort of business case problems would be also in play. Week 3, everything from week 3, and Joyce, and then wild card. So what I want you to do, looking at this skills list on the back, is pick somebody else in this room and say, you were so good at that in that exercise. So your options are, again, the opening, the 3 weeks chronologically, and then the wild card is just, you seem to do this every day, or, you did this when we were having coffee afterwards and it changed my world, right? So this is the kind of off the grid stuff. So what's going to fill these cells, we can have more than one if you want, are the names of people in this room. Of, okay, you were so good at this. So who wants to start?
I have 2 names. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would like to take this marker and say something?
I'll take it.
Wait, stop, explain yourself.
Working with Kristen and Robert yesterday at the Joyce Foundation with them as program officers was, had moments of people falling into their element and seeing just falling into their element, and it was, at the risk of sounding hyperbolic, it was a transcendent moment just to see how naturally they assumed this role and just how effortlessly they took it on and did the work.
Yeah, and tell me specifically. I forgot the most important part of the exercise, which is the snaps. Okay, so say what specific skill they exhibited, in your opinion. And if y'all want to cheat, you can use the back of the pick.
It was a perfect marriage of clarity, candor, and kindness.
I like that. Now you put it in parthood, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the parthood skills.
That was just trying, I think, to find of the categories we had the thing that fit the best, but looking at the case studies that we were provided for the exercise and the information that they got from their colleague presenters, the ability to take these really disparate chunks of information and vast stretches of ignorance on the part of the presenters and figure out I see, this is how this coheres into a whole, and even where the blank spaces of that whole might be to intuit where those were and press on them. Just the intuitive naturalness was what was part of what was so impressive.
Yeah, so I was there for that, and I agree with what you're saying, that they could fit these pieces into a greater whole. It's really cool. So. Now, normally the way this game works is whoever got tagged goes next, but you can do it however you want.
Oh, yeah, there.
What? What's the question?
Normally the way I do this is whoever just got tagged goes next, but you can do it however you want.
Okay, I'll put it. Okay. Do I have to write, if it's a wild card, do I have to put what it is or no?
Talk about it, and then we can categorize it if you're having trouble.
Okay, so I put Jaime in norms because after the, we saw at the Field Museum, the conservation exhibition was really slick and nice, and I knew Jaime knew something about Peru, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable about that exhibit, and I couldn't pinpoint why, and so listening to Jaime talk about that site and all the different ways that he knows it's not black and white and it's not as clean and slick as it actually is. And so, but he told me about all the different perspectives with a lot of generosity towards the different members and stakeholders to say no one thing is exceptionally bad or wrong, but that there's a lot of nuance in what's actually happening there. And so I appreciated that he could share that with me, but in a way that might allow further conversation rather than shutting down.
Yeah, I mean, so that is a key norm skill, absolutely, is saying this is more complicated than black and white, and it's not meaningless. It's not chaos. It's just more complicated than you thought. Well, good work, Jaime.
Lotion on my hands. And I'm not wearing shoes.
Oh no.
I hope I'm spelling your name right.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So now I talk about it. I gave Amina a wild card in limits because I think this is where I'm probably on this list the weakest, where it's talking about like articulating these rules of various problems and seeing them not as obstacles but as creative constraints. And so a couple of the things that I found particularly problematic or upsetting, and I would get all kind of worked up about it, and then Amina would say something over coffee or whatever that just was like, oh, okay. Like there was something you said about, I'm not going to name names, but someone being like the surplus of capitalism.
Oh, yeah.
Or the other thing that these people are not the ones necessarily that hold the power, but rather the ones with power and to really institute change are the ones we never see. And that was a very liberating idea for me. So that's why I gave her a limits plaque.
Yeah, I think philosophers should limits people.
Who wants the?
Not really sure what category this is, we can change it, but. Did I spell that The Eulajoy team was really good. I was so impressed how fast they came up with a pitch and were able to take a totally hypothetical problem and make it sound like it was already completely put together.
Can you remind us a little bit about Eulajoy?
It was the one of the people.
Eulajoy is an organization that plans funerals for a living.
Oh yeah.
Bill came up with the idea, so kudos to Bill.
It was
And
truly,
Bill's
it was a team,
original idea was
Brian said it was a
actually-
team effort.
It was actually like a tearjerker. So he really, flipped it to be hilarious, but it really came from a very, special place about wanting to, which I think a lot of people miss, about wanting to say the things that you never said while somebody's living. That I guess we're kind of doing now. So.
And pulling.
That's true. Exercise.
Right, pulling funeral planning from post-death into living is a configuration move. So, this belongs on the other side. Wait, who is Eulajoy? We have to snap at you.
So actually, this was Bill's idea, and in the opening exercise, we had to do three things. Like the three things that we had to do, Bill and I did it together, and I was really amazed by how he could see things I couldn't at all, and give insights that were so again, the configuration, he could see things and rethink those things in very, very productive ways. Like to me, that was a huge surprise. Actually, I can put it here because it's been throughout the 3 weeks. I felt like Bill always had to add something in terms of reconfiguring everything. To me, that was amazing.
And tell me real clearly, what do you think is the thing that he was doing that was just beyond everyone else?
That first day to me was that we were reading the same things. I was thinking I'm having trouble to see, or I see the structure, and he would see the structure in a slightly different way that was a lot more productive. And I was like, wow. And that happened a lot.
Yeah, that's a great capture. To see the same structure in a way that's more productive is also a very configuration move. Hooray for Bill.
I'm sorry. No, yeah.
So on the 1871 discussion, we all had, strong opinions, I think. But I found that Hannah and Marcus were able to clearly articulate those, especially they both waited till the very end, so it seemed they were gathering their thoughts, and particularly Hannah in terms of isolating the actors at stake, and then Marcus in talking about, both what was gray, but also how these values and beliefs were really problematically shaping the whole exercise. So I still, value their comments the most of everyone's in that exercise.
Yeah, Hannah and Marcus.
I think I'm spelling your name wrong.
Yes.
It was, I have no idea what nonprofit is or like the procedures that go on, but Ira kept on asking questions of thinking like, who were the players, who were the actors, how did the processes go in a way that was like clearly articulated for me, like even better than some of the people on the panel, and like I just thought like I like felt more at ease like hearing about like that kind of sector of society through your dialogue back and forth with them. And if you would want to go in that, I could see that in the nonprofit sector.
Thank you.
That's awesome, Lara. And good for you, Amina, for calling out asking questions as a skill in this. Because, yeah, asking the right questions is a way into any of these.
Yeah.
Wait, you can. If performance studies doesn't get the snaps.
Just throughout the last few weeks, I've really enjoyed reflecting on different conversations and different activities that we've had with Becca, and Becca's way of kind of like looking back at a whole situation, and then I don't know. I guess I've seen you sort of like think through things and be comfortable explaining a process of thinking like in conversation, which I think is really refreshing. Like a lot of people only express like an idea when it's really finalized and already really clearly, like crystal, but I felt, in our conversations, I've seen you sort of like explain how things, explain a process of things in a way that was really transformational for my thinking as well, so.
Yeah, that how this came to be stuff is a huge history skill.
I'm going to put your name up there, so.
It's awkward now.
I'm going to put this in week 1. It wasn't specifically ideal, but I really appreciated, and I'm specifically thinking about Leo Burnett, and you drawing in kind of personal history, thinking about the kind of unspoken motivations and biases that are, up until that moment, I think I was having a hard time with the fact that we weren't really talking about what marketing and advertising do. We were sort of focusing on the skills that they have, and I felt like you really bravely broke the seal in saying like, let's talk a little bit about what this field is, and really drew on your own experiences in that field in a way that was very open and helpful, I think, to sort of bringing in the kind of infleshed personal into this space that was very much about the kind of cold and corporate in many ways, or the performed personal but not the actually personal in some way.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I promise I wanted to get up there before you guys. So I was gonna put Ira. Actually, Ira, Jaime, and basically everybody. But those are the two.
Ira, Jaime, and company.
In the future category as a wild card, because I felt that everybody in the group was really open to explore uncomfortable conversations, to discuss things that we were struggling with, and as you just said, oftentimes I felt the urge to address these things, especially in smaller conversations afterwards, and I never ran into anybody where I had the feeling that that person wasn't interested in talking about it. So I just really appreciate that about everybody in the group, and I remember that kind of we three started these conversations a lot of times in smaller circles. And looking at the future category, maybe not so much the troubleshooting because we didn't come up with the perfect solutions for the questions we had, but kind of project or thinking about problems and solutions in real time and what we just heard and just processing that and thinking about it, what this means for our workshop, but also for the world in general, I guess. So I think that's also a compliment for everybody because I felt like the whole group was really, really invested in that. So
A lot of times future is as simple as asking what happens if it breaks, you know, but most people don't go there. So good for you, they did.
I'm trying this in future, although mostly because of this last bit about prototyping and troubleshoot effortlessly, because I was part of the bereavement insurance group and Sarah had this idea and really took us through the prototyping and the presentation of it really efficiently and with a lot of great ideas. So I remember her shining there.
Yeah. So I want to give a special shout out to Monica. I wish I could give her 2 weeks or put her up here for 2 weeks. Yesterday she killed it with her presentation as a project manager. I was like floored because I was giggling, being like, "This is a joke." Like, she was like on point. But that's not what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say 1871. So I had asked, we were all lively discussing the founding moms, and I had a point that I brought up with the group, and Monica turns over to me during the discussion when I personally felt like it wasn't as productive as it could have been. She's like, "I'm going to ask the question," and I was like, "No, don't ask it, don't ask it." And she kept like egging me on, and she was like, "I'm going to ask it," and I didn't think that it was possible to ask the question in a respectful, productive way, and you totally did, and I was floored. I mean, you just really impressed me with your tact and your ability to kind of give people the benefit of the doubt, even when they might not, automatically deserve it. So I just want to say, so you really earned it.
What was the question?
The question was about it. We can talk later. It was about Tupperware, the Tupperware model.
Yes, right.
But a lot of that is just saying, what'll happen if I do this? And, I think you kind of answered, well, it's not the end of the world. You can do this thing that, felt scary to do. Oh, yeah.
Nakia, can you tell me how to spell your name?
Okay, N-O-A.
N-O-A?
Q-U.
Yeah.
I-A.
Okay. So the very first session, the very first person I spoke to was Nakia, and she had this great way of coming at the problem from different angles that I just hadn't thought of, and I just thought, wow, look at the potential in this room for collaboration. And that has kind of stuck with me throughout. I could actually put Nakia here for wild card as well, because every now and again, even just sitting on the bus, we've been talking, and then Nakia comes in from like this side angle, and I'm like, whoa! And I'm normally in fits of laughter at the same time. So partly because of like this intellectual ability to come at things from all different angles, and especially from humor as well.
Hidden forces is a very part hood thing.
I'll leave it there.
No, the sword has been dropped.
I want to put Kentara's name here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm spelling it right. But I guess I'm putting that in wild card under history because I think she asked some really pressing and important questions throughout about privilege and like how our backgrounds shape how we get to different places. I think throughout she asked really good questions to the presenters. So.
Kentara and extension.
Okay, I'm putting Tyler down because I remember when we were doing that map thing and then, standing around the room. And at some point, we were talking about why we chose our project. And Tyler started talking about the conversations he had with people. And that's how he came up with this idea of, this migration dissertation or project. The real conversations he had with people. So yeah, and I thought that was really cool, which is why I remembered it. So.
Good deal.
So I am putting Amy in Parthood. Congrats, Amy. Because, so we were working on Eulajoy in our wonderful group, and it was largely Bill's brainchild. Like, it was just this wonderful idea that as I was just I felt like it was this sort of like out-of-body experience almost that I was experiencing, like I was sort of observing the multiple sort of parts of our group sort of sharpening each other and everything. And Amy kept coming in and saying, and Bill would come up with an idea and she would say, well, what if we look at it from this angle? Or what if we take this part of it and flip it? And just making these little suggestions that really just overall shaped the entire project into this really sort of funny and yet heartfelt and hopefully lucrative someday enterprise. And Amy was just a very integral part in playing the support system and just making those ideas work as best as they possibly could.
Yeah, I love that moment when you put out an idea and somebody says, and then you know what that means, in this whole other world that you didn't even think your idea fit into. You're really good at that.
Okay, so the first day, we were the configuration group, but Hannah and Matt were really good at sort of thinking about the actors in for the problems that we were considering talking about for our agency or whatever, and that was useful for me. And then I think I can't. Everybody who was in my group at the 1871 exercise for the limits, I had a hard time with that exercise, and everyone else in the group was really good at getting past some of their issues and sort of pushing their own limits in that exercise. That was something that I learned a lot from.
It feels so much like a longer walk.
Can I do this little on the line thing?
Yeah. Okay. By the way, for those two attributes, that happens all the time.
So I haven't seen it happen in that awesome of a way. So we had that. Future was our, future was our thing for this opening exercise, and we had this problem of global warming. And Brian was just able to draw on all these things and these problems of the past, but also make it into this really productive perspective future thing in a way that looked at the unknown too in a really cool and exciting way. So I definitely say Brian's in that area.
Best group ever.
I'm going to put it here, I guess, but maybe extend to. Kay just has one of those philosopher's minds, and she just sort of intuitively can take what to me seems like chaotic data and break it down into these component parts. And I'm maybe not drawing directly from 1871, but just some sort of informal conversations and the kind of daily debriefing. And I just walk away and holy shit. Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody remember when the
resume workshop was?
Last week.
Week 2?
1953.
Okay, so wait, week 2. So I think it was, I don't know if I'm misremembering.
That's perfect.
So in the resume workshop, I think it was the 4 of us, and we were just looking over our CVs and kind of explain. I'm not sure if norms is the right place, but it was something like, I don't know. There was just an explanation of how we got to where we are. We learned way more about each other. So not just seeing I'm a grad student, I'm looking for non-academic work, but seeing all the great spaces in between. But there was also something like very warm and sympathetic about the whole process that I thought was really a nice component to all the other things, learning about all these other skills in ourselves. And so yeah, I really appreciate that.
Did you have stories that emerged that say, oh, did you hear stories from them that felt like a story from your own life?
I don't know. I think I was certainly inspired. So Laselli has these these online shops that she has, and I was just really impressed, and it made me think about what side projects I have that I'm interested in. And I think that was a theme that came up in the workshop too. What hobbies do we have? What might we bring from the side to the center to help us?
Yeah, the reason I ask is because the way that norms are often discovered, limits are always stated and explicit. Norms you have to figure out, I'll give you this overly personal story, but I've lost a relative to suicide. A good friend of mine lost a relative to suicide. And I told him, all right, about 10 days from now, here's how you're going to feel. How the heck did I know that, right? It's through norms. There's no rules of it. It's just, this is kind of how it feels. And so, yeah, that kind of stuff that is discovered together over time is all norms.
Well, we did that actually. For somehow we jumped from our resumes and our CVs to talking about our personal lives.
Yes.
On a very deep. Now I'm gonna be the first to cry, probably. But it was what the hell? We're doing CVs. I'm making Soul Sisters. It was amazing. But it did let us go there somehow.
Well, and you established a community.
Yeah.
Which is all norms too.
Okay, I got the card, so I win.
I want to put Erica in here. This is getting a little crowded. As one of the first people I talked to, and we immediately connected about our shared passion, but also, how should I say, horror of doing a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and a hybrid dissertation. And I feel that talking to her over the first week especially, but also throughout the next 2 weeks, really helped me to see these different actors that are involved in such a project. And I think it opened my eyes, or it opened ways on how to approach this dissertation project more strategically, knowing that what is expected from different people in my committee or at my university or also outside of the university. So I just think that really helped me. So thank you for that.
I have 2. Where's the? So one is Megan. Is it GH? And part of it. And this is kind of the whole time. I feel like you've been asking really important. I'm talking to you. Really important questions that have to do with perspectives that a lot of us or some people wouldn't necessarily come to right away. And I think especially I could say in week 2 in 1871 we were in the same group talking about all the complexities of founding moms. And I feel like that was something that all of our groups had to overcome, is how do we actually ask questions that are important to help this woman, or to give her the feedback that she needs. And so I felt like we had to work through kind of the hard, how do we not just be really critical, but also try to offer really good feedback. And I thought that you were really great there. I also thought that Erica was really good in future.
And this came from kind of a simple, the day that we were talking about like, I don't know what, maybe it wasn't week 1. I was thinking opening, but maybe it wasn't. It was a week that we were like split up into different geographies in the room. Was that week 2?
That was 1.
Okay, that was week 1. It's all a blur. But I just remember when you'd said that what is your hometown's name?
Napoleon?
No, the swamp.
The Great Black Swamp.
The great. When I just remember being totally floored by that, like that you knew that you wanted to work in environmental sciences since you were just a child, because the town that you are from, it was no longer a swamp, and I thought that that was really amazing, and that really made me think that you really have a mind that thinks very much in the now and in like what's happening now. So.
It is so much scarier to give a compliment than to just like ask a question. Like freaking out. But my hand shoots right up to like grill someone. So, wow. Megan, I'm gonna put you in wild card feature. You asked a question about making just enough money. At the beginning, and I was like, who is this? Like, I grew up so broke, like I couldn't believe that question, but I think that, exploring scenarios that seem outlandish, or unlikely to find ideas that everyone can use, I think there's a lot in your questions that really made me think really, really hard about what my, what my values are, what my motivations are. So thank you so much for that. Monica, for asking so how does this work? So what do I do? Like, what's the next step? I think that's going to be configuration for rearranging processes and procedures to make them more effective or efficient. And then my girl Kantara, in her absence, I think that, I miss her already, it's weird. But I'm going to give her actors a wild card. I mean, I think she did this for me all the time.
You ready?
I'm ready actors. See, I'm so nervous up here. Oh my god. I used to sit down. Oh man. Okay. So picking up on the motivations of different groups and how they shape a problem, clearly describing social roles, but most importantly, imagining new ones that benefit everyone. And I think her experience working with people suffering trauma in Haiti and creatives who have a special way of processing the past, I think offered her a unique perspective in imagining kind of new roles for people to make life better. So there you go.
It's hard to resist.
So I want to crowdsource this one a little bit. What would emotional support fall under?
I have to think about that. The question is always toward what end, or in what context.
And I think just being a sympathetic ear or a wall to bounce ideas off of, or sort of in that context, and sort of more creative but stable sort of context, I guess.
There's a couple of ways you can go. The more you tell me about the situation, the better.
Well,
I'm saying that cautiously.
What about actors?
Yeah, let's go with actors. I think.
Yeah, if you come up with a better model of a person at the end, it's actors.
Okay. So two of the most important people in the room, I think, who haven't gotten mentioned yet, which is a crime, but because it's hard to fit you guys in, I think, into a specific category because you're just so out there and wonderful, is Janelle and Melissa. I'm probably spelling your names wrong. I apologize for that. But, and I just put in week 3 just because over the past 3 weeks I've had some really good conversations with you guys, just about this, that, or the other, family or the future, or I guess I could have just done future. That would fix everything. But just like you guys are just so present in just not only group activities, which I have been a part of with both of you, but in just the sort of off camera sort of discussions that we've had and that I've sort of observed you guys having with other people too. And so I think that's a really, really important skill, is just to be able to be there and to smile and laugh and to carry on, right? And interest in anything. Exactly, right? I'll shut up now, but you guys are awesome.
Okay, well, I was waiting to go last because I have a habit of breaking the rules. But I'm going to do it anyway because I don't know when this is going to end, and I'm going to all right, there's a lot of inspiration in this room, and I think each one of you would have fulfilled each one of these categories to me. I'm about to take my exams in November, and I feel more ready to do it because of all the contributions. I'm so emotional that each one of you would have made. And I want to thank Becca and, well, everybody. Okay, I can't really single out, but Becca and Sarah and Janelle and Leticia, just everyone for, you know, just being there, being a support and seeing the deeper meaning in situations and offering various perspectives. So thank you.
Okay, well, I'll go up because she just stole my fire, but she did exactly what I was going to say. I think we've all been, to use the hashtag, blessed with and I, you know, if I hadn't gone back and looked at the norms, I would have been like, she does not belong under the norms category. But then I realized that it's about seeing the unexpected, and I think we just have such an old soul in her, and she really does look for the beauty. I think in all of us, and I feel like the first day that I met her and throughout this, she looks at me and she like knows my soul, you know, and it's just very special. So thank you. I think just thank you for your spirit throughout this. So yeah, thanks.
Waiting in the window.
I was going to say real quick, people who are really good at norms tend to be outliers.
Yeah.
I think this is not 100% the right category, but it is in my brain. So I'm going to give you a general reason and a particular reason, and I'm going to out you again for this thing you said about your dissertation. So the particular reason that Rebecca I put between history and future, because she has struck me as constantly so well grounded in the present moment, and I'm not sure where that goes other than between history and future. But in a conversation that Rebecca and Kay and I had about her dissertation, Rebecca said she had stopped working like 30, 40 hours a week on her dissertation and was now down to, I'm sorry, I know that. Down to working on her dissertation for 10 hours a week, so Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day. It had doubled her productivity. But that was a sign of multiple, both formal and informal conversations in which I had wished that you were in my cohort when I first started grad school, because it was such a neurotic, crazy, mutually nutso-making time, that having somebody who is so like well-grounded and reasonable in the present moment is that's a life preserver, even just to have them nearby, much less somebody that you converse with and call a friend.
Could I suggest a reposition? I put her in norms, and here is why. I had a guy like this in my cohort too, that he said, I meditate every day. I thought, you can't do that, write a dissertation, right? But because he was living that outlier, right, he said, no, actually this is possible. Just because everyone is neurotic here doesn't mean you have to be. You know, so that's the function that has. It is what you said too. I just wanted to add that piece. You may be wondering when the niceness ends. My dream was that everybody would give a compliment and everyone would receive one. So everybody look at the board for a moment and think
what could I do to get us closer to that goal in the next 5 minutes or so?
So the reason I put Marcus down is that during the first week we were talking, I think pitching some idea or something, and he basically said he related his dissertation to marketing baby diapers. And he said, you know, I know more about baby diapers than any single 28-year-old should know. And somehow he got from baby diapers to his dissertation idea. And I mean, if that isn't going beyond norms, I don't know.
When did we get to the University of Chicago? Is that week 1?
Week 1. Yeah.
I just continue to go back to this like really amazing conversation on the way down Lakeshore, and you know, she was sort of exposing me maybe for the first and last time to Levinas. And then we sort of resumed the conversation a couple of days ago, and you know, just at the Newberry, and just like the verbiage of like how we fuck this up, like how we like experience like selfhood, and then think about like what are the kind of finite limitations on that like that subjectivity or something. It like sent my head into a spin. And then secondly, this has like been in very sort of recent conversations, but I like appreciate your kind of like skepticism, and it's like a constructive skepticism in the sense that like you call bullshit when you see bullshit. You know, that's there's a sense in which this whole experience has been very constructive, and there's a sense I think that portions have been very like uncomfortable for people, and I appreciate your kind of like intellectual honesty to say that outright when the rest of us are thinking it and swallowing it down. So.
And to add on to it, you like give out your criticism, but you listen to the opposing view and you like follow it through too. Like some people just throw out stuff and they don't want to listen to what anyone else has to say, but you like follow through. It's really a good skill to have, so you should be proud.
I need help finding the category for this one. This is to Desiree when I was on the bus. I'm not going to say what I said, but I said something really ignorant and stupid. And I didn't know it at the time, but Desiree very kindly told me where I was wrong and taught me something very important. And so I don't know what category that is, but she did it in a way that allowed me to maintain some ego, or not ego, but like, she didn't bash me to pieces, she just was like, look. Not okay.
So Desiree, don't even use the terms. We can figure that out in a second. What skill is that allows you to do that?
I had the same thing happen to me. Desiree. I would say it was on in my situation a language problem where I said something in this big group exercise that I said it in a way I didn't mean it, and then she pointed out that, and then I was like, I need to be more careful with the way I said basically the opposite of what I meant. So I don't know. I also don't know where that.
Configuration.
Is it configuration or is it norms? It seems like those are.
You can
Maybe
do it. So the
configuration.
formal would be configuration. The informal or how it's received would be norms. But it's both, right? It's, you know, what does this word mean, denotation, and how do people receive this word, connotation?
I have one more.
Hit it.
My other one is to my lunch buddy, Julia. What I really appreciated about our conversations is the way in which you very easily move through a recap of what we've been doing during the day, and then helped me talk about real life, like what's it look like when we go away from here, and what's it mean to feel uncomfortable sometimes in this room among our conversations, and also then uncomfortable other times, and how do we navigate those. And so I appreciated both your honesty and your willingness to eat lunch with me, and you know, continued conversations almost every day. So I'm going to put that in a wild card, and my gut says maybe parthood, because like I was thinking of this as a thing here and as separate from my other, and you were able to be like, no, these things are going to impact both, so I'm going to put you to parthood, I think, unless someone has a better idea.
I mean, future.
Future?
I
Okay.
don't know.
I'll put, yeah, we'll just do that.
Actually, I mean, you can do that just literally as a sentence. In the future, this will be a part of.
Right.
So yeah, that's easy.
G-U-I-L-L.
G-I-U-L-I-A.
That's how you know when to really tap out.
I got into the habit of G-I-U-L-I-A, of spelling it with a J, and so now I got confused. Well, I'm gonna do this because I wasn't really sure how to describe what she described and where to put it. But in my case, beyond everything that she just said, that was true mutually. From her I learned like there are things that she's passionate about that I never considered, because not because I wasn't agreeing. It was more like a word that I wasn't really able to get in touch with. And in her, like for instance, her environmental concerns, just as an example, are not just an agenda or an ideology that she needs to push like anybody else, but it's something that she really wants to relay as a meaningful way of living life. And so she's willing to listen to people that have other things they identify themselves with, and at the same time she's able to speak about her interests in a way that doesn't make you uncomfortable, as if this is what you should be interested in. So if you're not interested in this very way, then there's no conversation about it. And that was very important to me as a way of introducing matters to each other. And I don't know where that goes.
I have a thesis, but I want to know what people think. Okay, it can work that way. Tell me about that. Well, that was yours, Jason?
Yeah, go
ahead.
I mean, tapping into the individual, you've got your concern and you're recognizing that other individuals might not have that specific concern, but you're sharing the same world. And so relating to them in terms that they might find meaningful or in ways that they might find engaging.
Yeah, so you're taking
rather than imposing your idea on them, finding common ground or finding something in them that you can spark to connect in that.
Yeah. So I've been in this spot that you're talking about, which is you say, well, what's your thing? And you say your thing. You say, oh, you're an advocate. It's like, no, there's roles to play in relation to the environment. So there's not strictly an advocate role. You may do that too, right? But you can be an intellectual about it as well as an advocate. So that is an actor's thing. I was thinking configuration because I was thinking, how do you structure your intellectual agenda? Sure. But you can do it as actors too.
All right,
You actually have the honor of going last, Marcus. I'm
last?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, so I have no pressure. So I have three. Yeah, let's see if I do this right. So I think this was week one. This has all been kind of a blur between but we were coming back from somewhere on the bus. And we were sitting together, and I was just really impressed by how you were able. We were talking about. I want to say we were coming back from the overnet, but I'm not totally sure. And we were talking about kind of just how everyone in this advertising business was working in a specific way, and as kind of the motivations of these groups. And you just did such an amazing job of kind of connecting everything that they had been doing to what we were doing. I was super impressed. And you just really, I don't know, it's been a lot of fun just like hearing you talk about like, you're just always on top of shit, I guess. And like always on top of everyone else's, like this is what they're good at. And it's super impressive to me to see that. So that's...
There's a boldness required for that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Here's the job you're gonna do.
Yeah, and I love it. Like, it's super cool. So Rebecca was the first person I talked to in the opening exercise. And we talked about, so I actually ended up having her dissertation and then talking to her immediately. And it was really interesting then to hear her feedback, which was obviously very intimate to her. But I was most impressed then about her, I'm going to mess up exactly what it was, but you were talking about where can you put a museum essentially that talks about, in a respectful way, social issues. And you brought up Detroit and brought up all these different kind of problems that were going on and how you could work that in. And even today, I wasn't even in the conversation, I was just in the elevator. And you two were talking and you brought up like the inherent sexism and racism in kind of like teacher evaluations. And like, it was just super impressive to see you just nail it that quickly. And so yeah, I mean, articulate the rules of social problems, like just super cool. And then I have Anja here in the, did I put that right? In the norms. And I'm building off of what Tyler said, like, she just calls it, and she's really good at it. And what I really appreciate is always off to the side. We had so many like super short little conversations that were just really, I mean, sometimes they'd be like a few sentences. And it was just really nice because you just nailed it in such a quick and concise way that was super respectful and just incredible. And I wish I could do more of that myself.
Oh, okay, Corey goes last. Pulling rank.
Yes. So I'm going to put this in norms because and she's a stand-in for all of you, but I'm going to put Leticia here. Because that first day, I think I came in with an idea of what doctoral students were. And I think it was sitting at lunch with Leticia that made me realize, oh, wait a second. She's not as serious as I thought. She's smiling. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I've been around a lot of PhDs and doctoral students, and I just feel like you all just upended my idea about what that means. And I think that Leticia was the first that opened that door. So,
And if everybody in this room is an outlier, that's very important to know.
yeah, and I think that's kind of what brought you all together. And you're finding that commonality. But thank you for that smile on the first day, because that really just made me feel so much better about coming to these workshops. So thank you all.
So there's a thing that I want to do briefly before we take a break. And I'm going to erase my little map over here. Actually, can I erase this too? Does anybody need this still? Okay. So pretend for a moment that the humanities, big H, is just the people in this room. And you've got this vast data set now about this thing, the humanities. I want to know, here I'm going to, based on the data you've got, is anyone willing to offer a hypothesis about the humanities? So you don't have to live and die by it. Just based on what you've observed, what you've reflected on over the past hour, a hypothesis about the humanities, by which I mean the people in this room. When you've got one, just hit it.
They're in way better shape than I ever would have imagined.
Okay, tell me more.
I was not serious.
no, now you have to
Now
go.
anymore. No, but there's a lot of strengths and power in this room, and yeah. And I think, Corey, what you were getting at about how it sort of blows, even though I am a doctoral student, I had a particular idea about what that looked like. And I was just talking with some folks back home last night about how I'm not sure how transitioning back to sort of being in that more sort of like normative, I'm gonna start crying, Sarah, I got you. This is why I haven't said anything, and the tears will just come. So now I forgot what I was gonna say.
Normative.
Going back. Yeah, thanks. It's still gone.
Going back to the old.
Oh,
form.
sort of, yeah. And so thinking about how the sort of world of humanities and all the sort of creativity that can come alongside the sort of, not to say that research isn't creative, but sort of just all the good energy, and sort of seeing that, I mean, I guess humanities above all, this should be, of course, this is in the water, but this idea that there really can be justice through what we're doing, so.
You know, it fits this observation earlier that everyone here is an outlier, because it's a lot easier to be outliers together. Yeah. Anybody, go ahead.
I would finish it with the humanities should not be underestimated. I think there were some underlying assumptions with many of the presenters we had about why they were talking to us. If I hear one more joke about what I'm going to do with my degree in English, I don't know what I'm going to like. That's always just kind of the shorthand. But I think looking at the chart, if that's our data set, that there's a lot more there than people sometimes want to give us credit for.
So you've got this kind of bag of skills that nobody knows about.
One thing I think that's really interesting about looking at this chart is the kind of gap that falls around the history line. And the reason I think that's interesting is because I had a conversation with some of my colleagues in my department about how we were kind of like joking, and we're like, there's no such thing as happy humanities, because all that we do in humanities is look back at the past, and we're like, oh, it's so like effed up, like why are people like this? Like, we sort of like shame like history and like really focus on the past. And so we had this conversation like, how can there be happy humanities where it's focused on like the future and focus on justice and focus on problem solving things in the real world rather than just looking back and calling out, I mean, I'm not saying that's not important, but sort of like having like a dual vision where you look at the past and you also look at the future. And so I think it's really heartening to look at this chart and consider how many people in this room are already doing that in their thinking, focusing on the future, focusing on the connections between sort of like part and whole, and having a foot in history, but also being able to look towards new possibilities.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
I guess like I would see it as, I don't know if this is a way to describe it, is like a networking of minds or like a connecting of minds in a way that I've never experienced in my own environment. And I'm like in a philosophy department, and like it's like so many confined or like boundaries to thinking, you know, like people make statements, they don't make dialogue, and it's like here it's like everyone comes from such different backgrounds, and I've been able to like have this real dialectic with everyone, like just bouncing off each other's idea. Like, we each inspire each other, you know, and like even if we don't agree, it's like, well, I could see that, but let's take it further. And like that to me is like a feeling of being alive a little bit more than I think I have been for many years, and like how confining my department is, but how much like my mind is appreciated and how I can appreciate other minds is like been such a empowering experience, you know. And like I just want to thank all of you guys for being so accepting and like open, and I could sit down with anyone and talk to them and come up with creative ideas, you know. So I guess that's not a statement of humanities, but
I was actually thinking it was really provocative if you did, because if you say the humanities are open and accepting, actually that's like before this, that's never been my experience, right? That, I mean, the humanities as a discipline tends to be very structured, tends to give you a lot of limits, right? So I like this idea of what is the humanities when you say, actually, if you want to be heard, go talk to a humanities person. Hey, just jump in.
I think this is, I want to just say maybe exactly what Amina said in a different way, which is the humanities, as exemplified by the people in this room and the experience over the last 3 weeks, is profoundly humane. And I had this really come clear to me on Wednesday. I had a 3-hour workshop in the evening back at my own school. And realizing the ways in which both intentionally and unintentionally it is really kind of a cruel school. Coming back here to like an 8-hour day with exceptional people who have grown like tremendously and frighteningly fond of the like what is good about being human and humane is part of this version of the humanities that's produced, which I think also has as much to do with the exceptional self-selecting outliers that are here, but also with Allison and Nick and Jason and Ian, who like have been sitting in the back of the room, but are functioning as this social glue that, like the amount of gratitude I had toward you guys for introducing me to 20, like who of us goes to anything where you like everybody? Who aren't assholes. Hold on fast. I don't have skills for how much I want to cling to 28 other people other than like the very small one.
I mean, it's pretty deep what you're saying, because in a way you're saying, how do we make humane the norm in the humanities, which is both an indictment and a powerful challenge.
Yeah, if I could just add to that and what Amina, Bill, and Becca said.
I'm not the only one.
And then also what Amy pointed out about some of the presenters who come here with their assumptions, I hope that we maintain this kind of like comfort and power to be kind and generous to others when we're that person up there, because sometimes I felt there was a great distance between the way we were interacting with each other and the kind of very narrow perspective we would occasionally get. And my boyfriend was here for a couple of days, and we went swimming at the lunch break, and he was wearing his bathing suit, and we're at the corner, and he's like, okay, I'll leave you here. And I said, well, why? Like, don't you want to meet them? He's like, I'm not dressed business casual, I don't want to embarrass you. And I was like, no, they're all really nice. And it was true. So I just hope that like when we're singular, we can be as kind and warm and willing to listen to so many different perspectives as we have when we are in this group.
I'm going to finish this sentence again because hearing y'all talk, and I think I'm not saying anything new, but the humanities needs more interdisciplinarity.
Yes.
I think is maybe what I was pointing at, and what you said, that sort of we get siloed in our disciplines, and what becomes important is making arguments that will further that particular discipline, which I don't really have any interest in, right? But so I think that is just a thought that I was.
Yeah. Thanks. I wanted to say the exact same thing. I think one of the things that made this workshop so great, apart from the fact maybe that we're all outliers, maybe we're not, I'm not really so certain of it, but I think it's really the interdisciplinarity, what goes back to what you also said, right? That just because we can't talk in this close discourse that we have in our departments, we're forced to really tease out these misunderstandings. I mean, we had a couple of ones, right? And it took us 3 weeks to really understand each other in some cases. So, and I think that was a great practice. And I guess, so it's a little bit like when we talk about the humanities are, or the humanities, what are the humanities can do this and this, it's really the interdisciplinary conglomeration of all these different departments and disciplines that we're dealing with. And I think when we talk about the humanities in our departments, we sometimes tend to forget that because we're so enclosed in, in our German studies or history departments or philosophy departments. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, to echo a lot of what's being said, I think really, one of the great advantages of the interdisciplinarity of this program, as well as the kind of, shift in focus away from sort of our usual scholarly conversations, is sort of modeling the way that the humanities are a kind of mode of inquiry or a mode of approaching anything, right? So often that has to turn back on this scholar said, this, I'm proving this particular point or this intervention in my, very limited archive, but I think a lot of what, we've modeled at the best moments the last 3 weeks are the ways that, the humanities can really be public in the sense of using the kind of inquiry, investigation, and humanistic, kind of kindness, for want of a better word, like you were saying, Bill, to approach a conversation with anybody or to approach a professional situation or something like that. Yeah.
It's kind of humanities without citations.
Right.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what I've been in search of, for sure. Yeah.
So for me, right, going through grad school, I felt isolated at times, and in a system that incentivizes individuality and works against collaboration and incentivizes specialization, right, and jargon, it makes sense that you feel sick because it's a sick system, right? And so I think the thing that I've noticed, and hopefully I have a blog post, so don't steal it from me, but like, it's a sick system, I think, and it needs to change. But we are all absurd because we are staying in this education or this process that should get us a job, and the job market saying no. We're not going to value you in the way that you're being trained to be valued. And so coming here, it's like we have nothing to lose. And I think that like vulnerability, that was like literally the baseline. Like you're here because you're like, I want to get out, or like I want to find out who will have me. I think going beyond the interdisciplinarity, just the desperation that has kind of given birth to what Bill said, right? We have nothing to lose by being honest with one another here, and I think that is so amazing. And going off of what Megan said, how can I work with students who maybe feel like they don't belong there, right? How can I take the energy here that's really filled me up and refreshed me and grow it, right? So, yeah, thanks.
I would jump on that, and just this process has, I guess, forced me to think about like the ways in which the universe, and I have to say this delicately because it's university institutions that put us in this room in the first place, but I guess I'm questioning, the kind of social and intellectual capital that the university claims as the kind of sole proprietors. They monopolize the humanities as their own, and there's this kind of very hierarchical system that promotes intellectual growth and knowledge in the humanities within that system. But I'm thinking maybe like someone made a comment, I think week 1, something like if you're a surgeon and someone's choking to death in front of you, on vacation, you're still a surgeon and you still intervene to save that person's life. We're all humanists, whatever paths we take in and out of the university, and so maybe sort of throwing the humanities is not this kind of contained thing within departments and educational institutions, but it's something that really, people without formal education are part of those conversations too, and so that's been a big takeaway and an encouraging takeaway for me.
So I want to allow for the bathroom break. Here is my proposal. So we have, let's say we come back together at 10:45, and there are 2 things to do between then. So the first is whatever you want to do for your bio break. The second is what I think of as the first side of your paper, the I did not know that I did not know that we. Capture something from all of this there, just in a sentence. It doesn't have to be comprehensive. Just say, I did not know that I could, I can, I will. I did not know that we could. And I would say have that by 10:45, so you can sort your time however you want.
In some ways this is aspirational because I'm inspired to believe this. I haven't proved it to myself yet. But what I wrote was I never knew that I could, I didn't put the word could decide to leave a siloed educational context without necessarily having to become a beginner again.
I like that.
I didn't want this to sound too much like a t-shirt or anything.
Sort of t-shirt.
I said, I never knew that we could do so much with so little. And just, like thinking about bringing all this stuff to things I didn't even know we were qualified or able to do. So we kind of
It's funny to think of a doctoral degree as so little.
Feels that way sometimes.
So yeah, you mean like the narrow, I get what you're saying now. I got you.
You can pick that up at cafepress.com.
Let's get one more.
Sorry, I never knew that I could feel so lost and so found at the same time with a group of people.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, I didn't ask about the we. Who has the I never knew that we? Yeah.
I never knew that we could think rigorously and enact change simultaneously. In the past, it's always seemed like there needs to be a choice between those two things.
I feel you. I really like that.
I never knew, and by this I mean people from humanities PhD program, that we'd be so good at collaborative work or teamwork. This really impressed me, like every single time the teamwork was good.
Give me one more we.
I never knew that we were so creative, but not in the sense of like doing art or creative projects, but more in the sense of being like scrappy, I guess.
Scrappy. You had one too. Let's hear.
Mine is really short and sweet. I never knew that we existed. I mean, it's obviously not totally. I mean, but it's like this community has been really great, and in my own experience with grad school, it really has been isolating. And the we has been so small, and so it's nice that like the we is so much larger. And I really didn't know that so many people had the same type of kind of concerns and interests as I did.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
That's a t-shirt too. I never did it. So flip over. The paper, not yourselves. Okay, so on that paper I put the we first. Let me tell you why I did that. So now that we've fleshed this out a little bit, when you stare at that paper, you say, okay, now I think we should. That's what it says, right?
Now that we should.
Yeah, now that we know we should. Right, it's two-part. Who, when you look at that, immediately strikes you as the we? Who should we mean there? Okay, so these literal individuals. So I'm going to put that down as one possibility. We equals 29 humans. Okay. What are your other... Sorry, I'm watching Battlestar. Okay, what are other possible interpretations of we?
The humanities people inside and outside of academia, very broadly, loosely defined.
Yeah, let's do that. Like humanities, I think like home and abroad, Yeah. Inside and out. Okay, let's do some more. Go ahead.
Well, maybe the structure of academic humanities, period, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In other words, questioning the inside and outside definition itself, right?
Okay, so sort of the structural
humanities as a defined discipline, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to get a little actor-y on this and think like this is professional associations, this is conferences, this is everything that puts a big humanities stamp on it.
Well, universities too, thinking about humanities training.
Okay, does anybody want to do that as a separate, just universities?
I'm not really sure what's the difference then, because when I said humanities inside or at the university and beyond, that's kind of what I meant. I meant maybe I choose my words not so wisely, but I meant everything that's happening within under the umbrella of the humanities at the universities, at institutions outside of the universities, at conferences, scholars, not active scholars anymore.
No, I'm trying to think how to handle it because to me this was sort of homeland and diaspora. Right, this is all Irish people in the world, and this is sort of Ireland, right?
So structural humanities, thinking of just the universities, everything that's connected to the university.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm also gonna. But can I put the institutional university? too? Like the dean? That?
Yeah.
All right, the reason why I'm doing all this, there's a point, is these are going to be your teams. So I want people to take responsibility for solving for these particular groups. Now that you know that, are there any teams you want to add? Who we means? Go ahead, Jason.
Friends and family.
Whoa, like, go on.
That's a thing.
Most people in this room have friends, and a lot of people in this room have partners, or some have kids, and so oftentimes questions of gainful employment involve friends, family.
That's why I quit. I mean, when it came down to it.
Right, and we've heard that, I feel like, time and again from people. Geography, you know, work-life balance. You know.
All right, friends and family. I had never expected it. That's really interesting. Okay. Does anybody not see a team they would want to be on or want to create a new team?
What about grad students or humanities grad students specifically?
Do you think it's different enough from this? Oh, no, but I get what you're saying. Like, kind of below the line.
Yeah. Well.
I never made it to the line either.
To one side of the line.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not hierarchical. No, I think it's a constituency. I mean, do y'all agree?
We are 29.
Yeah, but this is interesting, right? So it's like, you know, we were just talking about this of like, okay, where do the first year graduate students fit into this formula? You know, the folks who are just coming in. Let's do grad students. Okay. Going to give rough geography.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Like, what's the difference between structural humanities and university?
So to me, I'll give you.
Maybe all the first, yeah.
Yeah. So here's how I would. Okay. I'll do this with an example I'm familiar with. So we are innovators and residents at USC School of Social Work. This to me would be like the profession of social work inside and outside of the academy. So there's lots of people who are social workers who don't give a damn about the university, but they still are connected to it. This to me would be like professional conferences, you know, people who are guarding the identity of the humanities. Which, you know, could even be this group, right? Even if you put without walls, you put humanities at the beginning of the name, right? And then the university to me is the dean, undergraduates, you know, funding, all of that structural university stuff.
Well, and the design of programs, right? Like
Yeah,
the design
yeah.
of like a PhD program, for example.
Yeah, so I think that if you say, you know, my gosh, we ought to be consulting to the science department, you know, that to me is a university answer. You want to add one?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry to do this. I know there's already a ton of teams, but can we add educators?
Yeah, sure.
As educators.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. Okay. So you can really meet wherever the hell you want, but I'm going to give a rough geographic approximation so folks can find each other. Let's do 29 humans, kind of over there. Inside and out, diaspora, whatever we're calling it, there. Structural humanities, back there. University, mid, back. Friends and family, far right with Jason. My right. Grad students over here. And educators over here. Teams may be empty. It's just an exercise. The point is, so get together. Yeah, you can do whatever one you want. So the point of your group is to answer that question with this noun.
The classroom, or let's go to the traditional education environments, then at other times I really love that particular ways. And I think
They pull from experiences, projects, and research that does not reliability. You could probably get it.
So I think having some sort of like eliminating some of the really significant put in is right. Right. And yeah.
stuff. So let's talk about it being okay to bail. It's okay to bail in your PhD, it's okay to bail out. For your activity, I need one person to think about that and invite other people. And I think that we are.
Who's gonna go first? All right, Inside and Out, yes? All right, everybody listen to Inside and Out.
Hi guys, Kristen and I are part of this group. I will start with our main goal and then Kristen will carry on from there. Now that we know we should take over the world. Kristen, do you wanna
I guess so. I guess I'm in the primary role. So I mean, this is a little. It's so difficult to define like what inside and out really means after we've done all this. But I think we really want to develop this idea of developing humanities practitioners. So there would still be a role for the university in doing this and emphasizing ways of humanities thinking in terms of like privilege, past, present, and future considerations, ethical considerations, in order to professionalize and mentally prepare students for all disciplines, but also all industries. And so as part of this, we really want to get rid of the idea of the ivory tower and instead developing humanities careers and new fields that are using humanities. We don't exactly know what all of these are yet, but I think that by... Sorry?
Should I give an example?
Sure, give an example.
So one of the examples we thought of was humanities and sciences. People don't usually think of humanities people, you know, talking to engineers or technologists, but we noticed when we visited 1871 that while they were developing all these technologies, or they were all these startups developing technology, nobody was really asking the question, should we be doing this? Is this good? And so they need humanists to ask questions like, is this ethical? Stuff like that.
Right, so I mean, this would be, and making people advocates for humanities, and also developing some kind of like more of a consulting career for those of us who are inclined to think this way and want to spread humanities ways of thinking in other fields and making like hybrid fields that incorporate humanities. So in terms of creating these humanities practitioners, we also thought in practical terms it would be good to have some kind of counseling center that would, I mean, it would probably be housed on a university campus, at least initially, but maybe also have a community branch. This would be career counseling and otherwise like mental, emotional kind of, for people who are making transition, and hopefully this eventually wouldn't need to actually be there, but thinking about the academic field as it is today, and that this is a long range project, right? I mean, we're not going to have mindset shift happen overnight. So, and also to those practical ends, us all acting as ambassadors for this program and this kind of thinking, and maybe also doing some grant writing to create these kinds of groups on our own university campuses or communities in order to get this going, since we're all really good at grant writing, are some things that we thought we could do.
And in addition to that, I mean, we talked about what we can do now that we've encountered this wider world and the possibility of talking to counselors, but also the university needs to professionalize humanities students to work in the wider world. It can't be focused entirely on academia, and that's how we want to break down these walls separating society and the academy.
So maybe even having the subdiscipline that's like the practice of humanities and exploring what that would be.
You guys have any questions for these two? Thunder support. Who should go next? Christian and Monica, who should go next?
They were talking very...
So I'm going to be here.
Team 29 humans.
Yes. So we've interpolated all of you into our Well, basically, I guess... We have one goal, or we've got two goals really. Our first goal is to get a platform or a medium for us to stay in contact after this. We felt like that is the absolute baseline in order for our number twos to happen. Because we talked about there's so much potential here in our skills and resources that we all bring to the table. Now that we know that we have them and we can own them. So do you want to talk a little bit about the projects potential projects that we've thought about?
So I guess we all kind of got together and we thought, well, the platform is open, right? Like we're 29 humans, so there's no kind of like ramifications or categories we have to fit ourselves in. So like, what can we do to like focus on us as human beings and all of our individual like talents and like our capacities, and what can we do to it? And we kind of came together and we were like, well, we're kind of starting an intellectual movement of like a new type of sensibility, a new type of way, or maybe an existing type of way, but we're trying to platform it and put it out there of how to approach the world, how to see things in different ways. And it could be careers, it could be art, it could be, you know, academia, and then so how can we kind of harness this like lens, this view? And we were just talking about different projects, and we were saying, well, what's like step 1, 2, 3. The first step is to create a platform where we all are just like in one space, and this could be a digital space. And the second is like, well, how can we keep up social face-to-face communications? And we were thinking like, well, we should utilize our resources. We can get grants from the universities we're in, we can get fellowships. Like anytime we get money, we should have like the consciousness of we're not just doing this for ourselves, but we're doing it to bring us together and keep this like energy and level of consciousness going. And then we start talking about publication, like in a publication that mimics or represents all of our skills, you know, and all of our like interests, and bring the academy outside in a sense, you know, and collaborative work in terms of a publication, but that's long term. So we were just like going, well, how can we make this real? Like not just an exercise, but like how can we commit it? And we all kind of like came together and we all want this in different ways, and like we're like, let's make this happen. So I think we're on stage 1 right now.
We mentioned a couple of things. One was like thinking in the journal, the publication as a goal, like toward, you know, like work together in that direction. We also thought, and that in relation to with Humanities Without Walls as the frame for that, right? Like thinking in alumni, whatever, like how can we think together going there. And as another thing we thought was like thinking in mini conferences, like we're all going back somewhere. And so trying to think there in how to bring some of us there too, right? Like, and so like triangles, whatever. And so, you know, so those were like 2 specific things we thought, but we also thought about other things, like a concrete project that could be whatever, and going towards creating a consultant agency, we trying to solve the problems of the world, right? And so I think we mentioned different things, but going from local, you know, like that, I would say that, to me at least, you know, the mini conferences was a good way, manageable way to start, and thinking in the journal as, you know, a goal, and with Humanities Without Walls there.
I want to add to this kind of the idea of this consultant role, like thinking of this group as something like an advisory board for not only potential clients, you know, people who would be interested in having a group like us or like a smaller group think through projects or problems, but also as an advisory group for our universities, if they want to really foster this idea of, you know, alternative careers or other career paths. I think we are, in a way, the experts to tell our universities what we need and what needs to change in order to make this happen. And I was a big advocate of having something very concrete and very small that we could start right now, today, because I feel if we don't have that, it could perish in a way. Like it's difficult to stay in touch if you don't have something very concrete to rely on. So I don't know, I just want to use this, I'm going to hijack this moment and just invite everybody who feels passionate about this to come, I don't know, I guess talk to this crowd of 49 humans. This is our comfort zone, you know?
29 years.
You don't even need the ists, just humans, not.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for you guys about that.
I mean, I think that we have a potential non-profit organization right here. We have grant writers, we have persons to film, we have everything that is needed to run a sustainable organization. So maybe humanities in the world, humanities around the world, and do something that would impact, you know, a wider audience. Take it outside. Sorry, I think out there.
So I want to ask, do any of you feel like if you had to write a manifesto for what you're proposing, you could do it right now for the collective voice?
I said no. I actually said no because this is only us, and who would want to commit, who would have the time to commit, what projects would be interesting to them, and so that like Ann and I disagreed very respectfully, I think. No, we're not 29. We're not 29. So, you know, I think it has, I think
some of us think we can.
Yeah, but I disagree.
Yeah.
Variable.
Yeah.
I love writing manifestos, but I think the problem with one of us sitting down and writing a manifesto is that's kind of counterintuitive to the kind of project.
Or you could all, let me put it a different way. Do you think you could get to a place among the 29 of you that you all would agree on eventually?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you could be sort of signatories of the Constitution, right? Some of them become president, and some of them are just signatories of the Constitution, but.
I mean, when people wrote them, they're always written by one person.
Continue to work on it and get it solid enough to everything was at least be willing to hear us out.
Exactly. It raises the question if we need a manifesto that's sealed into stone. It should be fluid.
So you guys.
29humans.org is available. .com. So start out higher.
And we aspire to .edu. You guys, you should go next.
Yeah.
Structural humanity, go for it, Ira. So we spent a lot of time talking of sort of defining the territory, just talking about the territory and what exactly we were talking about. And so I'd say what we've come up with is more of a vision statement than a set of things that concrete actions that we know that we can take. But I think what we said is that we'd like to reconfigure what we understand as the sphere of the humanities in a professional and intellectual sense, which would mean both reforming the institutions that define the academic humanities, right, the university, the professional organizations, etc., but also expanding the practices that understand themselves and affiliate themselves with the humanities that currently define themselves as outside of the university. We talked a little bit about the ways that humanities are a tough sell at the university level because it's like what use does that have in the world? And possibly that's both a problem and a solution in the sense that if we expand what we understand the humanities to be, suddenly there's a lot more application for the humanities in the world outside the university. But we also recognize the concerns of many people within the academy about this kind of expansive vision, and so specifically around a kind of capitalist commodification of what we mean by the humanities. So we also say we'd also like to guard against the sort of shaping forces of capitalism, which might seek to replace the protected academic sphere with kind of reductive, commodified versions of what we do, and so that we'd like to preserve the kind of process and rigor that we value.
It sounds like you have a sword and a shield.
The humanities in the academy. Right. Yeah, and it's sort of looking in two directions, I think, right? Looking back at the existing institutions and also looking at those institutions and professions that have a hard time imagining themselves as part of the project of the humanities. I mean, we talked some about how often we heard from speakers this kind of like, oh, we sort of, don't tend to like to hire PhDs because they talk in this weird PhD way, or something like that, or you can kind of get over being a PhD, here if you kind of learn our language. So, I don't know, somehow turning that around to say like, no, what you're doing is part of what, it is connected to what we're doing, and
We,
continue from there.
so at USC, we're helping put together this nursing department within a social work school. And people were very scared of it because what has happened historically, is the history attribute, is once you add nursing to a social work department, it becomes like human services, right? And social work gets marginalized. That's never going to happen at USC, but anyway. So people were scared. So we pursued this strategy that you might call the nursing petting zoo. We just brought lots and lots of nurses so people understood, yeah, we're basically about the same thing. We can get comfortable with each other. I think PhD petting zoo would be a really interesting... Most of these people who are expressing these opinions, right, have never met a PhD.
Right.
They don't really know what you're like.
Right. Right, and we talked about the sort of problem of the public intellectual who tends to then get kind of like, who tends to be seen from the outside as like representative of academia, but often is then kind of like disavowed by academia as sort of like not being serious enough or rigorous enough, or
It's like the Chomsky problem.
Right, yeah, we mentioned Chomsky and Zizek and Judith Butler and Cornel West, and a few people who get attacked a lot from from within the academy and from outside the academy, and not that those four people are the only model of what we'd like to see happen, but I think that they sort of represent this kind of problem that we're seeing about the sort of category definition. Yeah. But they do make some money, it's true. Did I represent well?
Like Console is about the history department. I think there's some opportunity there.
What's that?
No, I was just joking. I said if you'd like to consult with us about a humanities and practice, have a conversation.
Well, I think we tried at first to re-affiliate ourselves with the university team, and they rebuffed us. So I'd like to hear.
Well, speaking of which,
More of a confusion on my part. I was like, what are you asking for? And that became a no. So,
rejected.
Shall university go?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, or should. So first off, we have 4.5 points. The first is, I'm channeling my...
Because numbers are fun.
Yes, numbers are fun. One is we're all part of a university still. So we would like for everyone to return to their university and speak directly to the selection committee or the individuals who put your proposal forward to help you get here and explain the value of this program. To talk very concretely about the skills that you learned and the reasons why a workshop like this is indispensable at this time within the humanities. The second is more of a structural at the undergraduate level. Many of our institutions require you to enter and apply to a particular college, and then you kind of get channeled into that department or that college and you kind of stay there unless you do this really difficult shift. Perhaps we could think about undergraduate education as more of like, welcome to college, and take a whole bunch of humanities and all this stuff before you get pushed into the discipline, so that we can kind of stop this disciplinary thinking much earlier. The third is at the graduate level. So when you enter into your master's or your PhD program, depending upon the structure of your institution, your first year colloquial seminar class, instead of just teaching you how to publish a paper, it would be divided, teach you how to do things, academic-y, publish a paper, organize a conference, all these things that they already do. And then the other half would be dedicated to the sort of things that we learned in the workshop this week. So what other jobs are out there? How do you get them? What does networking look like? So you would enter your PhD program with the knowledge that there are things outside of teaching in the university. So that might help you determine what you want to do for your projects and how you write throughout your graduate career. This is the half one. So in addition to your first year seminar, you also would be required to do an internship, and it would count as part of your education. So just like the business folks or the engineering department where you spend one semester learning and then you spend a semester out in the professional world working as an engineer, in the humanities you would, nonprofit at a pet place or write grants for, write grants for an institution or, whatever it may be, but it would actually count as part of your education. It would count as a, credits or something.
Well, it's an interesting use of this because we have this kind of vague hope and dream that people will get these jobs.
Right.
I love that you're just saying no, you just do it.
Yeah.
You do it your 5th semester or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good community partnerships that way too.
Right, and it allows you to get your feet wet out in the real world while getting credit for it. So many of us are already doing this, but it's on top of or in addition to our dissertation work. So, and then the final thing is having each discipline, whether it's history or English or whatever, having the faculty actually have to go through some sort of training. A 1-day, 2-day, 4-day session where they are told and learn about what else there is and how to advise students that approach them who do not want to be in the academy. So that your advisor, when you come to them and say, I don't like teaching, or I like teaching okay, but I prefer to work out here, what should I do? They actually have tools to give students such as ourselves. Oh! Yeah, do you want to run with that?
That was actually Leticia's thing.
Okay.
Oh, this is just like another, like a sense, legitimizing humanities, and it was part of like the internship thing, right? Like, why do business students have this? And that legitimizes business school as a profession. And you could say humanities is this expensive thing, and part of that too goes to the alumni and who's graduating. I mean, think about all the humanities undergrads too, and that's something that people don't keep track of, like where they're going, or grad students too. Like you hear about, we were talking about succession rate in programs is really based on how many people are placed in tenure track jobs, but then what happens to the rest of them? And so that's kind of just like keeping track of that and making grad students aware that they exist.
And valuing
their contributions, even if they're different than the usual.
Yeah, I sometimes think about my own program. I just think, you guys never write, you never call. Like, they don't know that I'm doing this, right? And it's because no tenure track job.
Right. But how important would it be that if I entered into the program that you did, you were my alumni, and I knew about what you were doing, and I got to see that as a version of success. That would be really powerful.
I was going to say to Erica, to your point, so that the advisor should go through some type of training, but anybody who does the recruiting or admission should also, right? To know, so that you would know this is a part of the whole experience that is available to you from the outset, instead of already maybe falling through the cracks of academia and kind of being on the way there. You start from the beginning and say, okay, I know this is an option.
Yeah.
Friends and family, do you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, as with the reality of friends and family, friends come and friends go, and Kay was part of this group, and she had an information interview at 11, so she had to go. But a new friend, Corey, entered the group, so we modeled real life in our discussion. The collective responses are going to be primarily Kay's, and I'm going to do my best to give her answers in my voice. Now that we know we should be capable of having more fruitful and transparent dialogues about the difficulties of PhD programs, about the possibilities of PhD programs, about the processes involved in getting our PhDs, with our friends and our families, many of our friends and families who are not graduate students or have never gone to graduate school or even college.
as well as with the public and a wider audience. And that wider audience and the friends and family can include various backgrounds, so international backgrounds, different cultures, different economic backgrounds. We should disseminate this alt-ac conversation with our friends in our own departments. And some of the things that Kay brought up was the sense of shame in maybe not wanting to follow the traditional tenure track. Or the idea that using a PhD for something other than being a tenured professor is a consolation prize. So we should go back to our friends first in our departments and work outward from there. That we should reach out to our friends, both within the academy and without, to see what they do in their jobs. What do their jobs involve? And Kay brought up, somebody who's a stalker at Target, somebody who works in branding for a corporation. Talk to them about what they do. Have conversations with our friends and with our families about their jobs, what they involve, how those may relate to our educations and areas of focus. We should reconnect with old friends, colleagues, friends from undergrad, friends from high school, friends from non-academic contexts, because as I mentioned on my blog post a couple days ago, networking is fundamentally about establishing and maintaining friendships. So that's one thing we should do. And we should also, this is my point, I'll add to Kay's, we should maintain contact with each other and you guys with Humanities Without Walls, because we want to know where you go with this. And we want to be a resource for you. We want you to be resources for one another in the near-term and long-term future. So you guys all have paper versions of the email or telephone lists, but if you guys are amenable to it, I would be glad to distribute an electronic version. With emails too, so you can have emails and phones. How about that, 21st century? Yeah, Corey, please.
I want to add one because, it's my own interpretation of one thing that Kay said is, I think we need to redefine for ourselves and for our friends and family what success means. I think it's important because family is or friends, the support network that you have around you is so important. And if they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, it can be really hard on you. And I know this from personal experience. I was an undergraduate dropout, and just having that support was important. Even though my parents didn't quite understand it, they supported me, and they got to the understanding stage, and I got my BA eventually. But I just think that's really important. If there's one version of success that everybody has in mind, then I'll give you a quick example, and I'll use coming up. I have a cousin who was in a PhD, MD program here at U of C, and it took longer to get through because he had 3 advisor changes, just went to other jobs, and he never got published because his advisor took the thing he was working on with him 2 or 3 times. That was seen as a failure on his part, and that makes no sense. So, and we still kind of talk about it like, oh, poor Phil, It's still like, and he's got this great job, he's got a great family, he's got a great life. So I just think that that's really important for us to teach our loved ones what it was important to us and how we want to succeed in life.
And I would say it's also important to teach that to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to start with that, redefining success. My graduate advisor once told me that failure was a misapplied metaphor from mechanics to human beings, and the human beings are successfully born, they successfully die, and everything in between is successful. So he's a strange guy, he's kind of a shaman, so I don't know that part. Now that I know, so this is my take individually, I should bring the humaneness of the humanities into my everyday life. So a sense of perspective, a sense of kindness, a sense of generosity. Back to the networking, I should start with gift and with service rather than request, ask, and being served. I should combine the narrow focus, we'll talk about the narrow focus of the traditional PhD, the diving deep, the laser focus on a particular issue with peripheral vision. So the sense of all of your other interests, you're all total human beings. You're not just your areas of expertise. I mean, you are those areas of expertise, and you are experts in ways that blow my mind. But you also have lives beyond that. And so bringing both of those to the table, because oftentimes the peripheral vision will allow you to bring that expertise to the things you see out of the corner of your eyes, and those are oftentimes the opportunities. Last, I should learn to balance risk and responsibility and opportunity. So sometimes you're, what's the word, Nick? Dasein, you find yourself thrown into life, and so responsibility often comes with that responsibility sometimes you didn't ask for. And you find the balance of risk and responsibility and in creating your life. And finding that balance can create more personal satisfaction, less burnout, and I would say existential success. At the IDEO, when we talked about death, I mentioned the thing I got from Buddhist studies was, you know, two things. You're going to die and you don't know when. And so how do you want to live? So as humanists, that I think is an overriding question. How should we live? So I should live in a way that's existentially meaningful.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you were part of this group?
Thank you, guys. Let's get these last two.
So we were grad students as a whole, and we don't really have anything new to say. So we talked about redefining success. We talked about pushing back on sort of these numbers about placement rates. We talked about facilitating conversations on campus, collaborating with disciplines, talking to administrators, facilitating professional development workshops for other grad students. What else did we talk about? Okay. I know we're running late, right? So I was just trying to.
I had a lousy little question though. Is any of you part of a union? Okay, we didn't have those. But
You know, grad students could do that.
Yeah, that was really the first thing, organized.
well, it just occurs to me like I'd never thought of these things as like union issues until today. I think it would be a really interesting forum for this kind of conversation. You know, not just kind of teaching hours, but the content of the programs.
There's actually a consortium of graduate student unions called Agile that has these conversations regularly. So.
Huzzah. Educators?
So we spent the time just sort of, it was more of a fruitful conversation for us than like coming up at the end of this sentence. But in the last second, we decided that we would probably say as educators that we wanted to like broaden educational platforms and spaces and practices, and perhaps use some of the things that have come up in this workshop, modes of educating that we hadn't really thought of using in some of our classrooms yet, like role-playing yesterday we thought was really fruitful. Probably the most fruitful of the humanities in the world exercises. So thinking through how we can use that kind of stuff, those type of real-world projects with our students in the future.
Our sentence that we kind of like very last minute came up with was, now that we know this, we should expand the classroom and collaborate more closely. So I think in a lot of the kind of reflections that we had about educating, we had this kind of dual movement of like working within structures, but also being able to work fluidly and within kind of like a traditional classroom space, but also be able to interact with non-traditional spaces and modes.
That's cool.
And something important that Hannah, I think, brought up kind of in the last minute too, was finding space for more interdisciplinarity.
Yeah, and the classroom level. That's interesting. Well, thank you very much to all of the groups. There is one thing left on the agenda. We're not going to do it all together. In fact, I would like you to think of it as kind of a contract with yourself, which is that last question on the list. So now that I know I should. And you don't even have to write anything down. There's lunch to be had and surveys to answer. But I would ask you to think about it for yourself, just you, over the rest of the day. And if you want to talk about it with folks, with the HWW folks, with me, with Corey, with anybody, just do it. Or do it at dinner. Because in the end, you all have to make decisions about your own lives based on all this information. And well, thank you very much to all of you for letting me be of service. And I hope I get to see you all again. Not just at the Russian tea time, but in life. So thank you guys.